Hi, I'm Larry Richardson, your step-by-step chef. In this episode, we're going to make an absolutely delicious dish. It is clams in white pasta sauce. It's really easy to make, and yet it tastes very complex. And you're absolutely going to love this dish. So come on, let's cook. And here are our ingredients. First of all, we have 10 ounces of whole baby clams. Now, these canned clams can vary greatly, and some people like them on the chewy side, and some people like them on the tender side. I like them on the very tender side, and that's why I use that brand. I'm not endorsing them, I'm not getting paid by them, but they do tend to be very tender. We're also going to use a tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil, a half a teaspoon of Italian seasonings, and you will be able to add a little bit more of that if you want. It's to taste, but they can be very potent, so be, a little bit on the conservative side the first time you make this dish. We're going to use some artichoke hearts, and that's a can of artichoke hearts, and we're just going to use a couple of them and mince them, or rather dice them. And that's totally optional. If you can get your hands on them, do it. If you can't, that's just fine. We're going to use some red pepper flakes as a seasoning at the table. So you don't want to add that as we're cooking, but put that at the table. The same thing with the grated cheese. Let people add that to their own preferences, to their own taste. We're going to use a 1/4 cup of minced sweet onion, although yellow and white is also just fine. I have 2 green onions. Now, if you can't get green onions, that's perfect. But I am going to mince those down, and it just adds a little bit of a complexity to the dish. I have 1 celery stalk that we're going to mince, and then 2 garlic cloves. And the garlic cloves are going to either be minced, or if you have a crusher, crush them up. If you don't have garlic cloves at all, then you can use about a half a teaspoon, maybe a little bit less, of powdered garlic, and it should just come out tasting perfectly. And the final thing we're going to use is the spaghetti of your choice, and I like this with a good angel hair spaghetti. So whatever you like, pick that spaghetti, and that's what we're going to serve it on. So come on, let's cook. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is chop up our veggies, and I'm going to take the green onions. Again, if you can't get them, this dish will come out fine. The sweet onion will make up for it completely. But this just does add a little bit of a sweetness, kind of a green onion taste, because they are green onions, to the dish. So I'm just slicing them very thin. Now, these are dishes that I make when we're out camping in the middle of nowhere, and I have canned goods, and I have access to a few hearty vegetables. So this isn't make-believe stuff. This is stuff I actually eat and stuff I actually love. If you went hiking for 10 miles and you got back to your campsite, this is a real treat. You appreciate this more than a prime rib at a fine steakhouse. Trust me, you just do. And so my goal in traveling, especially camping, and when in Florida we have our hurricane season, is to try to have these hearty vegetables on hand at all times. Because sometimes you can't get them. You can't get them in some towns where you're hiking, and sometimes you can't get them during a hurricane. So you have to be ready and have things on hand that you can use. So that's why I'm saying sometimes you have to substitute some of these ingredients. You have to think, well, what would taste good in this dish? And doing it to your taste. So what I'm saying is if you can't get your hands on, green onions, it might be a little bit hard in both of those situations we were discussing, then you might be able to still get regular onions. And I can't think of a single place I've camped where there wasn't at least one lonely onion sitting in a bin just waiting for me. And onions are one of the keys to an awful lot of the recipes on Step by Step Chef. So when I see an onion, I get elated. It's just such a gift. Celery, the same thing. I see celery all over the place too. And it's another hearty vegetable that if you just take care of it a little bit, it'll be just fine. So we just mince the green onion. Now we're mincing the celery. Cut it up the middle like this, and then cut it real thin. You don't want big pieces of celery in this dish. Nice and thin. And again, it just adds such a freshness to this dish. And I think a lot of cooking in difficult situations, delicious cooking, it relies on these hearty vegetables if you can get them. And if you can't, maybe there's frozen or canned or some other version of it around. But these ingredients just make you go, wow, that tastes like home. And I always rely on them. That's nice and minced. See that celery, those celery pieces, thin, little, no big pieces of crunchy celery in our clam dish. And this also adds not just deliciosity, look that word up, but it also adds a freshness to canned goods. And you're going to see in my Quick and Easy series that I am adding celery and onion and maybe garlic and some other of those hearty vegetables to different recipes as much as I can. It just gives it a freshness that you can't get any other way. And here's our sweet onion. Again, you can use white onion or yellow onion if you want. Let's just get rid of the skin. There we go. And we just want about a 1/4 cup of this. So I'm scoring the top. Make these lines real close together. You don't have to go that deep, but just make them real close together. And then go perpendicular. This is just an easy way to slice vegetables, especially onion. It's an easy way to just get it done. And everyone has a different way of doing it, but really, when you want to mince it or dice it, this way has worked consistently for me. And then just cut down the face, and I'll show you the results. There's our 1/4 cup of finely minced onion. And if you can picture it, this is something that I actually did. This is cooking I actually did in Banff in Alberta, Canada, one of the most beautiful places in the world, in the middle of a campsite when we were under threat of some wild animals coming in. And yet, this is so tasty, it was worth it. The next thing we're going to do is just either finely mince or crush our garlic. So I'm just cutting off the tough parts. And just mildly get rid of the wrapper, because if you have to mince it, get rid of the skin completely. If you have a mincer, you don't have to. And honestly, these pieces of garlic, these cloves, are so big, it's almost counting as 3. So I'm just going to cut this one in half. And then what we do is just take our crusher and put the garlic in here. And just press down. And then just scrape off the garlic off the front. And this automatically gets rid of all of the tough parts. And if you don't have one of these, just finely mince it. That's fine. If you've watched the step-by-step series, I don't have a lot of complicated equipment to cook with. I have like a $20 food processor and this crusher. And then I have basically a camping knife. So that's what you're going to see. And that's what we cook with. This is what real people cook with. And I don't think the great chefs approve of what I'm doing, but honestly, they've never put anything on my table. So I don't care what they think. So this is all we do. Just crush away. You know, this actually, if you do this, or when you do this, you are going to find it so aromatic, you're going to go, wow, this is going to be one delicious dinner. So I'm going to set this bowl aside. And now I have our artichoke hearts. And I know it sounds like a luxury. It does sound like a luxury. And it's not necessary. These are totally optional. But I love the taste of these with this clam sauce. Even in the middle of the woods, if I have a can of these, I'm like, wow, that's good stuff. So what you do is just cut the heart part off. And do this with as many as you want. I'm going to do, I guess about, okay, 5's not quite enough. But don't use the leaf part of the artichoke. They just, sometimes you're going to get a can where those are really chewy, and that's very unpleasant in this dish. So just cut the hearts off. And again, if you can't get these, no problem. I just love when I'm out in the middle of nowhere and I have these. It's just a treat. It's a treat. It's decadent. If you're up in the middle of the Rockies and you're camping and you're out in the middle of nowhere and you have a can of artichoke hearts, first of all, defend it with your life. Second of all, realize it's decadent. And you can add that whole can if you want. And I'm just putting these in my second bowl. And now I'm going to meet you over at the stove. Okay, now this pan has been preheated at just under medium heat. So ladies and gentlemen, start your engine. And in the meantime, make sure to start boiling your water for the pasta too, because this cooking will happen very fast. And all I'm going to do first is add our olive oil to the pan. There we go. And then just take our onion mix with the garlic and just put it in the pan. And if you don't like garlic, you can leave it out. That's fine too. I didn't mention that before, but some people are not fond of garlic, and the onions will pull the load and it will taste quite delicious anyways. So what we're doing is we're sauteing this until the onions start to appear translucent, and then we'll do our next step. So you can see our veggies are starting to sizzle. Give them a little stir. Kind of keep it moving a little bit. We don't want the garlic to caramelize in the pan or to scorch. It's a little bit delicate than the onions are. But what this does is it gives the onions and the garlic a chance to release their flavor into the olive oil. And you can certainly add more olive oil if you want. Totally optional, totally up to you. This is releasing some amazing aromas. Onions and garlic and really red pepper, like a sweet red pepper or even a green pepper. Those are like the staples you should always have in your kitchen and if possible in your camping kit. They just really make so many different meals special, and they also make so many different international meals special. You can use them in Chinese food, in Thai food, in Mexican food, in Italian food, and you just change the spices a little bit and you've got a meal. I think really that's one of the home chef secrets, is just these few fresh vegetables are so versatile. And maybe I'll do a video just based on that, telling you or helping you to build the kit that you should always have in your kitchen. Now let's just warm up our artichoke hearts. And again, you can add more of these if you want. And you can even dice them or mince them a little smaller. I don't mind having larger pieces. They're kind of a treat that stands out in the middle of the dish. And the next thing I want to do, since the onions are appearing translucent, is I'm going to add the Italian seasonings. And this will help them to give out their flavoring too and integrate into the recipe. So they're getting a little bit more exposed to the oil and, giving out their essence, their herbal essence. And herbs are something that when you're either out in the woods or you're at home under difficult circumstances, let's say a hurricane knocked out your power, fresh herbs can be a little bit hard to find, and then you have to rely on dry herbs and spices. And adding them in the saute process helps them to give up their flavor without that kind of dry harshness you can get if you wait until the last minute to add them. I promise you that right now, if you had this in front of you, you would want to take a spoonful and chuck it in your mouth. So I'm satisfied at this point that everything is giving out its essential flavors. So now we're just going to take our can of clams and just pour it in with the liquid, because you want a little bit of liquid in your white pasta sauce. And then just stir this in. And this is going to make you laugh, but when I go to restaurants and they serve clams and other shellfish with pasta in a white sauce, and the shellfish is still in the shell, this is my pet peeve. It drives me crazy. I can't stand picking the shellfish out of the shells. I know why they do it, because it shows that the shellfish is fresh, but honestly, I'd rather have this can of clams with tons of clams and I don't have to sit there and pick it out than having to pick the clams out of shells. It's just, I don't know. Everyone has a dining pet peeve, and that has always been one of mine. So now what we're going to do is bring this to a simmer and let it cook for about 3 to 5 minutes. Let all the different ingredients get to know each other, and then we'll serve it on the pasta. So I'll be right back. So here we are 5 minutes later. Our clams and white pasta sauce, all the ingredients know each other. Everything has gotten all mixed up and it's ready to serve on pasta. So I hope you enjoy this. So congratulations, look at what you just made. Clams and white pasta sauce. Now, imagine making this when wolves might attack you in the Canadian Rockies. Yeah, that's how much I like this. This is absolutely delicious. It's nutritious. You're getting some veggies, you get some protein, you get some carbohydrate. It's absolutely delicious and it's worth making, no matter what. So I hope you'll take a look at this recipe. You will find it in a printable version on my website, stepbystepchef.com. There you'll also find over 140 printable recipes for delicious meals, along with free video links. I mean, it's that fun. And you get to cook with me. Come on. Nope, get back here. You get to cook with me. The other thing you're going to find, and my step-by-step fans know it's coming, is the cookbook, Cooking with the Step-by-Step Chef. And I will update this every November with whatever I've been cooking in that given year. And every recipe will come with a free video. So you can go watch. You and I can cook together. It's going to be so much fun. So my name's Larry Richardson. I am your step-by-step chef. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.